Hi, my name is Emilie McCormick. I'm a sophomore at the University of Vermont. Um, I have always loved following court cases since I was a little girl. I find something very intriguing about learning facts of the case and learning how many different ways there are to interpret the law. Safe to say for most 20-year-olds, this isn't a typical mindset. I grew up in a family of attorneys, so I've become very familiar with the system. As a young girl, eager to follow in her father's footsteps, I engulfed myself in the work that he did in the hopes of one day being able to achieve half of what he has. So I've never once doubted that my path in life was to go to law school and become a corporate litigation attorney like he is. In fact, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, it says that right in the bio. It wasn't until I went to college that I realized that that's not really for me. I enrolled in a class the second semester of my freshman year called the Political Economy of Race. And the course was designed to introduce students to the political and economic motivations and consequences that racism has in this country. I spent most of my life in Vermont, a predominantly white state, and I went to a high school of over 1,000 students, only 2 of whom were students of color. And those 2 students were from the same family. It was the only family of color in the 5 towns that made up my high school. So I wasn't really introduced to many issues of racial bias from where I grew up. This course introduced me to these concepts and showed me how deeply rooted these issues of implicit and unconscious biases are in our society. It was ultimately a depressing course in that my professor posed no real solution to these very real problems. So I decided that I need to leave Vermont and go into an atmosphere where people are working towards these solutions. So I came to Boston, Massachusetts. And in my time in Boston, Massachusetts, I, like many other fellows, have been following the Rodney Reed case. And hearing the facts of the case and learning of his impending execution, of course, it makes people frustrated. It makes me frustrated. It's so obviously motivated by racial factors that it's baffling to me that it's even happening in the first place. Of course, everyone's well aware that there are problems with our criminal justice system, issues that negatively impact the poor and minorities. But once again, this was, to me, it was a turning point. I realized in that moment in taking the class and hearing about the case that I can't follow my father's footsteps, go to law school, and come out to work to keep the rich richer, as people say corporate attorneys do. So I want to use my education to defend and protect those who are unfairly abused by a system that we rely on so heavily in this country. I think that it's scary for a lot of people to step out of their comfort zones and to put themselves in new atmospheres that are teaching them things that they're not necessarily used to. I know for me that was scary, and it's still scary to come to that realization that I'm moving away from the family business, and I know my family has had trouble with me telling them that too. So I encourage people to step out of their comfort zones and try to learn new things about themselves, because if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have learned what really motivates me. Thank you.